Men have been steadily dropping out of the workforce, especially men aged 25 to 54, who are often considered to be in their prime working
25
years.
to 54.
As of August 2024, 13.7% of prime-age men were not working, compared to just 7.2% in 1954.
So why do you think that is? Do you think that's because of entrepreneurship? Do you think we're not feeling valued at our jobs? Or do you just think it's just flat out laziness?
The long-term decline in labor force participation by so-called prime-age men is a tremendous worry for our society,
that's
for our
crazy.
economy, and probably also for our political system.
The unemployment rate for prime-age working men sat at 3.4% in August 2024. This number primarily includes those who are unemployed and looking for a job. But about 10.5% of men in their prime working years, or roughly 6.8 million men nationwide, are neither working nor looking for employment, compared to just 2.5% in 1954.
What's surprising is it's not a COVID phenomenon. It's not a recession phenomenon.
And for every prime-age man who is unemployed and looking for a job, there are more than 3, and some years 4, who are neither working nor looking for work.
So what's driving men out of the workforce? And if left unchecked, what impact will it have on the U.S. economy?
Oh, let's get into this.
Nearly half of prime-age men out of the workforce cited obsolete skills, lack of education and training, poor work record, or security issues as a reason preventing them from work.
Education is a very important predictor of a prime-age man's odds of being out of the labor force.
The big impacts are on the non-college educated groups on their ability to enter and stay in the labor market.
Men who are not college educated leave the workforce at higher rates than men who are. At the same time, fewer younger men have been enrolling in college over the past decade.
Now, with the whole thing with college, right? With the whole world going more towards the digital age, everything being online, more men are starting to realize that they can make money online. Now, I don't know how many of those men are successful, but more men are starting to realize that. And then why would you want to go work for a company or work for a job with a boss that doesn't value your work anyway? So I don't blame them for doing that. And then college, look, I'm all for college, but I'm thinking like, how much have I really used my degree? I still have student loans. These student loans are ridiculous. So if I had to do it all over again, not gonna lie, I probably would have skipped college and learned a trade instead. That's just my opinion.
Where the most prime-age men out of the labor force are in particular, they tend to be in places that have experienced manufacturing declines. They used to graduate with a high school education and have good, stable jobs. They weren't glamorous jobs. They were, automobile factories, sometimes mines, other manufacturing jobs, but they were respected, they were stable, and they could support a family. Since then, due to technology-driven growth, a little bit due to Chinese competition, you've had a lot of manufacturing firms and the places where they were located that were one-horse towns become ghost lands, right?
Wages could also be a contributing factor. Median annual wages for men with a high school diploma have fallen from just over $57,600 in 1973 to $45,000 in 2023, adjusted for inflation. At the same time, wages for those with a bachelor's degree or more have increased by about $6,300 during the same period. This decline in earnings led to a 44% growth in the exit rate of men without a college degree from the workforce between 1980 and 2019.
I think, honestly, status plays more of a role than wages. As I said before, you had a manufacturing job, it was respected, you were part of a community, breadwinner for your family, you had organizations like unions or Rotary clubs that surrounded your job, and that's gone.
In general, men without children are also less likely to participate in the workforce compared to men with children, especially men without education or training after high school.
What we have seen is a huge rise in the proportion of prime-age men who've never been married, and a very, very significant decline in the proportion who are currently married and have kids at home. And those two trends track closely with the big changes that we've seen about male attachment in the labor force. Correlation isn't always causation, but looking at that correspondence is real important, I think.
Meanwhile, 57% of the roughly 10% of men not looking for work said their physical or mental health was the main reason for not being employed, with 55% citing a disability, serious illness, and or receiving disability benefits.
This whole mental health thing, right? I feel like it really hasn't started to come into focus, specifically for men, just within the last couple of years. Before that, men were looked at as like, look, you have to provide. It doesn't matter what you're going through or what you're dealing with. Doesn't matter if you're depressed or down or whatever that is. You have to provide. You got to show up every single day. And you got to continue to work at the highest level regardless. And some men have just realized like, man, like my mental health is like taking a hit with all the pressure of society and everything on them. Like it's been getting hard. Now, don't get me wrong. Like I'm not saying that your mental health is more important than your income, right? It has to be a balance.
Health and the mental health of male workforce dropouts is an extremely important and I think concerning one. Distressing proportion of the men who are out of the workforce say they're using pain medications every day.
A 2017 research paper estimates that an increase in opioid prescription between 1999 to 2015 led to about 43% of the decline in men's labor force participation rate during that period.
Opioids.
So then you have to ask, what sort of pain are we talking about? Are we talking about physical pain?
Right.
Are we talking about metaphysical pain? There's an enormous amount of depression, mental health challenges that men in this grouping face. Some of this is a chicken and egg question. Did you drop out because you were feeling sad? Or are you sad because you dropped out and you're living on the couch?
Unemployment is really terrible for people's well-being. Often people adapt to all kinds of negative shocks, losing a kid, being widowed, whatever.
Yeah.
And eventually kind of come back. But long-term unemployment is one of the worst things in terms of that. So what you have is a kind of scarring effect, and it's worse for men because their identity is much more wrapped up in their role as a worker.
Yes, correct.
Men's declining workforce participation can potentially leave a lasting impact on the American economy. The U.S. has been experiencing a severe shortage in labor, still missing 1.7 million Americans from the workforce compared to February 2020.
1.7?
The McKinsey Global Institute estimates that U.S. GDP could have been $296 to $442 billion higher in 2023 if the country had been able to fill its job vacancies.
Dang.
However, some experts suggest the impacts of men leaving or never entering the workforce could be more sector-specific.
You need young men coming in wanting to replace those people going out. And so if men have primarily been in more manual labor, more blue-skilled and skilled trades, if they're older and they're leaving into retirement and there's not as many young men coming in, both because of declining cohort sizes, but moving in a different direction type of careers, we're going to be losing that sector of productivity.
They always say, like, why get things to impress people that you don't like? I don't have to impress anybody like that. So why do I need this super high paying job? If I can still make $40,000, $50,000 and live comfortable and I don't have kids, why do I need to go into that workforce? I can do something else and still maintain my mental health and be happy with my life as it is.
Despite a steep rise in federal funding, the infrastructure sector hasn't been able to find
Here we go with
workers,
this Biden stuff.
with the construction workforce shortage surpassing 500,000 in 2024.
We are a little concerned about the impact that inflation is going to have and has had on the movement of infrastructure dollars into the actual productive activity. Having a shortage of men in construction is going to raise a problem.
The trend could have a dire sociopolitical impact as well.
There are problems that government can address and problems that government can't address.
So one of the first functions that beats out policy is, economic growth. You have a strong economy, you're going to have increased wage structure, and it's going to bring people back into the market.
Yeah.
More than a quarter of prime age men not looking for work cited insufficient pay as a reason preventing them from work.
So with the way the economy is right now, everything's expensive. I saw this thing on the internet one time. They were talking about the movie Home Alone and how Kevin, the main character, went to a store. He went to buy some groceries. And I believe, don't quote me, it was like 20-something dollars that he paid for those groceries. Fast forward to now, those same groceries that he bought in the store, in the movie, in that scene, would be over 50-something dollars, right? So everything's went up. So if you're not going to pay me the amount for a living wage or something decent, why should I put up with what you want me to do? It doesn't make any sense.
29% of men out of the labor force said that training and educational programs was another important factor in considering a return to the workforce.
Having the type of commitment from the employer to train and retain and offer upward mobility for workers, I think, will be very important. Trying to figure out more about career pathways in the labor market and not just the education side. So how is it that someone moves from first job, next job to best job? How do we help people understand and navigate?
Nearly a quarter of working Americans said they weren't satisfied with their growth opportunities in the workplace.
Exactly.
Compared to other OECD countries that on average spend 0.1% of their GDP on training their workers. The US spent only 0.03% of their GDP on job training in 2022.
Older age groups, it's tougher. You're probably not going to get these guys to retrain, but there are a lot of programs that have largely been pioneered in the UK, much more than here, but we're starting to pick up on them, that literally just try and reboot community activities. They get these isolated people in despair out of their houses. It can make a difference.
Social programs like disability benefits spark contentious debate.
It's very controversial. People have very strong opinions about this. While we don't know why it is happening, we can be pretty clear that the social welfare programs are helping, and the disability programs are helping to finance this situation in a way that was never originally intended.
A 2018 analysis by the Joint Economic Committee found that 64% of prime-age men who aren't working were receiving some sort of government assistance.
So the one benefit that they rely heavily on is disability insurance. One, because they often are unable to work if they have a physical injury or high levels of addiction or whatever. But it also provides health insurance, which is huge.
However, some experts remain doubtful about whether altering the benefits program will lead to meaningful results.
I think until we deal with the deeper problem of ill health, ill mental health, these guys aren't going to respond to incentives.
So I felt this way for a long time, that a lot of men are leaving the workforce for reasons that I already explained. And the main reason is because not feeling valued at their job. I've heard so many stories on how, people are being used for higher positions, but not getting paid what they should be getting paid for that position. Say, for example, a person's at a level 1 and they make them do level 3 work, but they're still paying them the level 1 salary. I don't say just leave your job without any particular backup plan, because as a man, you still have responsibilities, especially if you have a family and you have children. But on top of that, if you're not feeling valued at your job and you can make money somewhere else, specifically if you got a plan, take that chance, move forward with it, and go from there. Let me know what your comments are below. Subscribe. I'm out.